Hi, this is Rich Uzdowski with Ball State University's Center for Middletown Studies. I'm here today with Dave Collins, and he's going to say his name for us in a minute, but we're here to talk a little bit about the recent Muncie High School consolidation as part of a bigger oral history project that's going to be turned into an oral history archive. So, Dave, if you wouldn't mind pronouncing your name for us and then telling us a little bit about yourself, where you live, your address, your age, what you do for a living.
Okay. Well, my name is Dave Collins. I currently reside at 4505 South US Highway 35. That's here in Muncie. I'm a 1989 graduate of Muncie Southside High School and now closed in middle school. I work for Aaron Sales and Lease Ownership Company. I'm the general manager there. We sell and lease home furnishings for several people around the city.
Okay. And we're just going to jump right in here. I have a list of some prepared questions that we're hoping will get you started off on the topic. And of course, we're going to start off with what are your thoughts and opinions on the high school consolidation here in Muncie? And maybe even more importantly, have they changed in the last year since the decision was made to consolidate?
Well, I'd say my opinions have changed somewhat. I do believe there should have been a longer thought process into the decision to consolidate the high schools. As of now, we're doing a building study with the remaining schools to find out the feasibility of even further consolidation, which I feel like that should have been done to start with last year before we ever did the consolidation, to make sure that the buildings were feasible and to know that the amount of savings was going to be there.
So what I'm kind of hearing you saying is that now looking back, you wish there would have been more thought put into it originally before the actual decision was made.
Absolutely, yes. Or even after the decision was made, at least hold off on a year to get everything in plan and everything in place. And maybe do this even more than just consolidating a school, looking at the entire system as a whole, and maybe even getting a chance to revamp the entire educational system we have right now in our city.
Okay, and maybe looking back on the time where there was all the tension and turmoil surrounding the consolidations during the town hall meetings, if you could take us back to your mindset then, what was going through your head then?
I believe my mindset was I don't know why we're doing the town hall meetings because the minds have already been made that this is going to be a consolidation, it's going to be a done deal. No matter what other alternatives were brought to the table, such as the two middle school, junior high school, senior high school options that we had brought to them as well. So I kind of felt early on that it was just a done deal, and this was just a smoke and mirrors thing, just so to appease the city and the people of particularly the south side of town.
Okay, and you kind of jumped the gun here. For my next question, which is, do you feel like your voice was heard in that decision-making process? And based on what you just said, it kind of seems like you'd say no.
Well, I would say my voice was heard.
Okay.
That's just the way I am, though, because I went to every one of them and I give them alternatives, give them other things that they could do. But I don't think it was taken seriously. I don't think that the building study was done. I don't think that they actually gave any thought to two junior, senior high schools within our community. I felt they heard me, but I felt like that their mind was already made up, so they just kind of pushed it off to the side and continued to do what they wanted to do anyway with it.
Okay, maybe even taking that idea a little bit further, do you feel like the community's voice was heard?
Yeah, and once again, the community's voice was heard. However, I just don't think that anything was taken, as the community, feels this way. I think the mindset was made up already, what they were going to do with the schools, which I'm not saying that it didn't need to be done because of the savings amount, but I think that they could have probably studied it a little better and actually revamped the entire school system rather than just the high schools.
When you say they, you mean the administration?
The administration, yeah, the school board members, the 5 that were voting.
Okay.
I should say the 4.
Okay. Can you maybe speak to that a little bit more?
Well, there's other things that's going on right now. We're looking at the feasibility studies of some further consolidations now that it's already been done as a high school. That could have been done in cooperation with everything else we were doing. We could have done it all at once and revamped the entire setup. There's several elementary schools that need a lot of work done to them. For example, $900,000 in HVA system work or replacement. That I feel like that right now Wilson Middle School is on the chopping block to be sold, and it is apparent that it's not maybe they're saying that their mind's made up to do that. However, I see the writing on the wall that they're going to sell that building rather than possibly using it for something else to repurpose it. Instead of putting the $900,000 in 3 different elementary schools, my idea would be to close those 3 elementary schools that are in so bad a shape, revamp the entire setup to where you have K through 3 as an elementary school, and then 4 through 6 as a secondary school at the Wilson campus. Close down the Anthony Administration Building and put that offices in the upstairs of the Wilson Middle School building.
Okay.
Then close down your middle school and Northside Middle School. So there you've got 4 buildings that have closed that you're not incurring the operating expenses from. And then take your 7th and 8th graders and move them to Southside Middle School, which is not being currently utilized to its fullest potential. There's only about, well, I can tell you exactly how many students there are. There are 637 students in a building that houses 1,300. So the feasibility for that to be one middle school would be great, because you wouldn't have to, bring these kids, separate them at middle school level, and then bring them back in for like athletics is concerned, to have them compete against each other and then have them be one and compete with each other again. And that would further develop the north-south split, where it just is gone away. So there's no more north-south split, because you still have a Northside Middle School and a Southside Middle School. So, we are going to talk about the north and south split. I think that continues on at the middle school level.
So, I mean, just listening to everything you had to say there, you obviously know your stuff and you've crunched some numbers. And just to provide some context for everybody listening, you are currently or going to be running for a school board member position. Is that correct?
Yes.
And just going off of that, if you were, let's say you were a part of the school board when this decision was made, would you have any advice for everybody else around you for what should have been done, what could have been done?
Well, I definitely would have tabled it. I would have abstained for a little while. I would have said, hey, look, if we have to make this decision, we need to get all of our numbers in line. We have to do the building studies. We have to do the feasibility studies and things like that, rather than just jumping headlong into it. Because even at the first of the year, we were missing about, I'm going to say about 75 to 100 lockers at Muncie Central, which, they got taken care of pretty quickly and everything was fine. But as far as the entire overall rehauling of our school system, I think that needed to be looked upon as well. If you were going to close down one high school, then you need to look at the other buildings that are costing us a lot of money.
So that's something you've touched on a couple of times, is maybe taking it slower. Do you have any idea as to why everything happened so fast, as you see it?
I could only speculate. I couldn't be for sure. I think that there was a couple of seats from the board coming up, and I think that would have been, if certain people would have been voted out or voted in on the school board, I think that might have changed the voting on that as far as to consolidate or to close down a school.
Yeah.
That's pure speculation, of course.
Yeah.
I know that we're bleeding money. We're to the tune of about a $3 million deficit every year right now. The new CFO has found a way to, kind of rebudget us where we have like $1.9 million savings every year. But now we're looking at maybe utilizing that money to put into Muncie Central and renovations as well. So the savings that we're getting, we're having to put back into the school systems for renovating and to overhaul the school, so to speak.
Yeah. And you did say something about how we were going to touch on the north-south dynamics in town. And I was wondering if you personally, do you feel like you spoke or speak with a certain neighborhood or side of town?
Well, I believe being that I lived on the south side of town, I went to Muncie Southside High School. I think that it's only natural that I feel like that I represent the south part of our community. However, with going forward now, I feel like we have to, dissipate that whole entire north-south boundary. And I felt like at the time I gave them an opportunity to further that, to where they could not have a north-south split, even if they wanted to go to east-west split. Because if we were to go to 2 junior senior high schools, 7th through 12th at both Muncie Southside and Muncie Central, you could have split our district right down Walnut Street. And you could have had, if you lived on the east side of Walnut Street, you would go to, this school. If you lived on the west side, then you would have went to this school. So you could have done that as well. There's a whole lot of different things that we could have done to, get that divide out of the way, but I don't think we did that because you still have a Northside Middle School and a Southside Middle School, as I said before. And it's very difficult to get out a divide when you have two schools that are named Northside, Southside. You still have a North-South split. If that's what they were trying to get one Muncie, I don't think that they accomplished that for the middle school level.
Can you clarify again when you say they? Who do you mean?
The current school board members.
Okay.
If that was the goal for the administrators, the administration, our superintendent of schools, as well as our current school board members.
And do you think that was their goal all along?
To have one Muncie, I
Yeah.
believe yes. I think it can be done. I think that it is starting to take form. So from that standpoint, I think they've done a pretty good job with the consolidation to make sure things run smoothly.
Okay. And how does that look in actual practice when you say things have run smoothly? If you could speak more to that.
Well, for example, I was there the first day of school at Muncie Central. Everything went really smooth. There were no issues. The kids seemed to get along real well. The only thing they had problems with was a bunch of kids not really real familiar with the building. So I was there to help kids get to their current, classes and things like that, so they get used to the surroundings and used to the building. So from that standpoint, I think everything was very well done. Mr. Jarvis did a really good job of getting everybody where they needed to be. Communicated that to the students, communicated to the fact that they needed to act appropriately and needed to, become one. So I think from that standpoint, they did a really good job with that.
Okay. And you've touched on this a little bit, maybe indirectly, but do you think your community identity played a role in how you approached the consolidation issue?
To an extent, yes. Initially, I would say yes, it did. I was a little more emotional about the situation rather than the thought process. And as it played out through the town hall meetings, as it progressed, as I spoke with different people, it progressed to a thought process of where are we saving money, because we were supposed to save about $1.7 million by closing one high school, and when we get the enrollment numbers coming back from November to currently now on September the 11th. We actually lost 435 students, and at $6,700 a student, that's $2.9 million in revenue that we've lost just from the loss of students leaving our community. So from that standpoint, one student was enough to lose,
Sure.
let alone, 435 students. Now if we're talking about really financially, if this was all a financial deal, we've gone back a step. We've gone back from saving $1.7 million to losing 1.2 because the net effect is a $2.9 million revenue decrease with the lack of students that we have.
And looking back at the town hall meetings, there was several people who stood up and predicted, or maybe even you could say threatened, that their children were going to leave, or they thought other children were going to leave the Muncie school system should the schools consolidate. Do you think the school board took that into consideration enough?
Well, I think it was more of an attitude of if you want to go, go.
Okay.
If you don't feel like that we're qualified to give your child an education, then find an education somewhere else. That's what I got at all the meetings, and that's what I got at the school board meetings, at the town hall meetings, the school board meetings, things like that. That's what I got from the school board members themselves. In fact, one school board member said, "I wish Godspeed," which I understand. But that was a little bit inappropriate as far as I was thinking, as far as, hey, I want your children to be with us. We want you to stay with us. I think there could have been more of a, let's work this out. Let's get this combined together to where we're still going to be able to operate. Because at the $2.9 million we're losing in revenue, it's still very difficult for our school system to continue to operate. If we could have given maybe, hey, look, we want you guys a part of this situation. We want you to be a part of the solution rather than the problem. Let's sit down, let's figure this out. Instead, it was, if you feel like you can get an education somewhere else, so be it. I wish you good luck and Godspeed.
So if the name of the game was saving money, would you say it was almost counterproductive considering how many students have left?
Oh, absolutely. We've went backwards. If you look at the numbers, like I said, with at least $2.9 million in revenue lost, and we're saving $1.7 million by closing a building, and now we're still continuing to do, I don't know exactly what the total numbers are, and I'm sure that, the new CFO could get you the numbers. But Wilson Middle School, we're still paying, all of the utilities on it. We're paying security over there. We're paying upkeep and maintenance on the building, which prompts them to possibly, the school board members to possibly want to sell that building a little quicker than later. But I still think that the building is repurposable.
Do you think this reality is being overlooked? Or do you think not enough people are speaking up like you are or touching on this?
I think that there's not enough people that's speaking up, and I think that's due to the fact that there was people speaking up at these town hall meetings, but to no avail. There was a lot of people saying, hey, look, you should probably table this. Let's figure it out. Let's do some studies instead of just going blindly into it, which I thought they were going, blindly into the whole situation by not realizing the end result of financially what it would be. Even at the first town hall meeting, I was the first one to speak up. And they gave us 4 different options. And my first question to the board was, with all things being the same, which one of these 4 options saves us the most money? Because that's what it's all about right now, according to what we're trying to do here, is to save money because we cannot operate financially. They had no answer. There was no savings attached to any one of those 4 options that they had. And it wasn't until the second meeting that they had the potential savings amount for each one of those. So I thought that that was an indication of how blindly we were going into this. If we were setting up a town hall meeting and talking about saving money, and there wasn't no savings attached to the actual 4 different scenarios, then I thought we were going in very blindly.
What do you think mattered to them then, and them being the school board and the administration? What mattered to them between each different of the 4 considerations? What differentiated one from the other to them?
I really have no idea, because as we could see now, as this comes to fruition, we're not saving any money. We're actually still continuing to lose money. I don't know what the thought process was behind that, especially by not at least taking a step back and kind of maybe not committing right away to that, giving it another year to look through it with a feasibility study and that sort of thing. I don't know why. I really couldn't tell you why. I don't know why it was such a rush to do things. I can only speculate.
Sure. And going back to the we're kind of switching up topics here, but going back to the north side, south side divisions that we spoke about earlier, we can almost say that these divisions have been around in Muncie for a real long time. And even several speakers at the town hall meetings leading up to the consolidation expressed concern about the way students from both sides of town would interact when they came together in one high school. Why do you think that is?
I think it was fear. I think there's a lot of people that just don't like change.
Okay.
In my heart, I knew the kids would be fine. I have a sophomore. There's a junior this year that I've taught him. He's all over the city. He's played baseball on the north side of town. He's played baseball on the south side of town. He's swam with north side of town, swam on the south side of town, done everything interacting with all kinds of different walks of life, all kinds of different people. So I think from that standpoint, I think people are just afraid of what could be happening. I knew the kids in my heart. I knew the kids would be fine. I had no issues with that as long as the parents would be able to step back and go, hey, look, go to school, get your education, and everything else is secondary at this point in time. What I advised my young man was to do is to go to school to learn. If you go with a chip on your shoulder because you've lost your school, you've lost your identity, then nothing's going to be accomplished. You're going to permeate the process of people not getting along very well. If you go to school with a positive attitude, know that you're to get your education and further your education and to better yourself, then I think that everything would be fine. And it has turned out to be pretty good. There's just been a couple minor instances, but that could have happened anywhere.
But you said fear. Now, is that something you felt like people were fearful in general?
I think the fear is the overcrowding part.
Okay.
Kids getting attitudes because they're getting bumped into each other. Someone stepped on my sneakers or what have you. But like I said, that can happen anywhere. That can happen if the population of the school was 800. But I think the overall fear was just because of there had been in the past a lot of rivalry between the two schools, and as we go on, back when I was in school, we had rivalries. There was fights at the high school basketball games, the football games, things like that. We had that, but as we got older, the rivalry kind of dissipated quite a bit. There wasn't as much made of it.
Okay, so you would say, to kind of sum that up, the rivalry isn't as relevant today.
No, it hasn't been for quite some time.
Why do you think that is?
Just times have been changing. There's more things to do for children. There's more things to do for kids. with the internet, things like that. I mean, you can go see somebody, videotaping the game on YouTube rather than go to the game. There's more things for kids to get into with the internet and things like that that I didn't have when I was in school. So there's a lot more things that kids can be doing with video games, things like that. And that brings us to kids not actively participating in sports as well because of the different technology things they have nowadays.
Sure, sure. And what role do you think a high school plays in a community's identity?
Oh, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. When I was growing up, before I moved to the south side of town, when I was in elementary school, I was all about the Muncie Central Bearcats. All about the Muncie Central Bearcats. It was an identity because 7 state championships, now 8 state championships, now combined, 9 state championships with the 2 schools. So the identity of the athletic part is what they identify with first. But even more so, I think now the academic part has to really step in. We have to see kids emerging out of our community become leaders. And the thing that I really struggle with is to see these kids get their education, go off to college, and then go somewhere else and make a difference rather than coming back to the community which they lived in because there's nothing here for them.
Sure.
Okay. So from that standpoint, it really makes me sad to see the kids go away, go to college, and then stay away instead of come back to the community to help better the community and do something within their community.
Can you speak a little bit more about that? Why do you think there is this trend to go away and stay away?
Because our entire community has been based upon several things, which would be the industry that's left our community. And my thing of it is if industry comes back to our city, if we start to pick up the jobs that we're picking up, we get people coming in from different cities to move back into our communities. I want to make sure that we're financially responsible enough that if we need to visit this again, if we have too many kids in one high school, how can we remedy that situation? Because my fear also with this whole situation is that now you have a school that in the Blue Ribbon Task Force suggested that there was only 1,761 seats available for kids, and we're at 1,648. That leaves room for about 100 students in that school. And then when your third graders get up there, you're going to have 2,000 kids in that school with the current enrollment statistics that were just given out today. So when the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth grade becomes those classes, you're going to have 529, 473, 48, and 412 in that building. So that's well over 2,000 people in a building that was suggested for 1,761. Where's the room for growth? Where's the room for our community to grow? If there's no place for these people to bring their kids to, then guess what they're going to do? They're going to move into neighboring cities, Yorktown, what have you, and they're going to come here. And if we do have the jobs in our city, they're going to pay taxes in some other community rather than paying the taxes here to support our schools.
So you're saying if the ideal is to bring people into Muncie and to have Muncie itself grow, but we don't even have room for that to happen, there could be problems.
Yes. And that's why there's been so much recent talk about selling off some of the property, I believe, such as Wilson Middle School. That's why I'm a big proponent of we should not do that. We should save that as part of our assets, and to build our net worth as a school system. And they're also the school board was talking about selling a portion of the Muncie Southside Middle School area, which would still allow it to be acreage-wise to be considered lawful enough to be able to run a middle school. However, that wouldn't allow it enough size to be considered to ever go back to being a high school. So if you sell that corner property there, then if we do have the economic growth that we, all would like to, think we could get, then you couldn't reopen that school as a high school, and there would be no area to grow in if we're selling off our assets as quickly as we could possibly be doing here real soon.
Okay, and the next question I have for you is, it's kind of a blanket question that I might force you to repeat yourself here just because we've talked about the consolidation so much, but if you could just go back to what you think the overall effects of the consolidation have been, and how are we seeing them already, and what do you predict them to be in the future?
Well, as I said, our overall effect right now is that we've lost students. We've lost revenue that's generated by the state to a tune of, at least $2.9 million. And that'll only increase if we don't do the things that we need to do to be proactive, to maintain what we have instead of closing out the Wilson Middle School, repurpose it, and really do this right for our children. Give them the quality education that they deserve, and continuously being financially responsible enough to where we can continue to afford those programs in which we're trying to provide for our children.
Sure.
Such as the early college at Muncie Central High School, and such as all the other different little things like the athletic things that we have going up from the elementary school on up. Sooner or later, they're going to have to be a pay for play if we can continue to grow our revenues. And with kids leaving our school systems, our revenue is going to decline consistently.
And that's something you've touched on several times, is kids leaving our school system. Can you think of any ways, or do you have any suggestions in terms of bringing them back or adding students to the school system?
Just from here forward, try to be positive about the situation that we have right now. Try to encourage our kids to do the right things at school. And I think that comes from home.
Okay, yeah.
And I think that the parents, I think another thing that we really need to touch on with the school board is really beating the drum on getting our parents to be actively involved with their children's education, to be actively involved with their children's lives, so they're not bringing guns to school. We've got 2 instances with an airsoft gun and a .380 that was brought to the school. And I think that's due to the fact that we aren't really getting as much parental involvement into our children's lives. And I think we could really market that from a school system, to continue to preach that and to harp on that to PTOs, and just to individual parents. If they send things home in the backpack, and make sure that they're signing them, make sure they're being aware of what's going on with the school, and then getting their buy-in to what we're doing, rather than forcing it down their throats of what we want to try to do. Really get their buy-in, such as if we were to decide to, let's say, keep Wilson, reconfigure the entire elementary school system, instead of saying that's what we're going to do, get their true buy-in to it and have them coming to school board meetings. Because the last school board meeting I came to was pretty dismal. There was only about 10 people in the audience, and that includes teachers, former teachers, and things like that. I didn't see a whole lot of parents there. Now, when there was talks of the school consolidation, there was tons of people in there. It was a standing room
I was
only.
just going to ask you that. Why do you think that is? The differences.
I don't think anyone's ever really made it a point to come to school board meetings, to interact, to have questions, to question the governing authorities that are there. The school board members, the people in which we elect to be on that school board, to question the things that they're doing. Until it came to crunch time, we were thinking, oh no, we're going to lose our school.
Yeah.
And now it's important because we've lost our school. And now that it's done, it's going back to the same thing. We're not getting as many parents there involved with the school board meetings, and I don't think there's as many really interacting with the school and making a difference. And even if they don't have to volunteer at school, but at least asking their kids how they're doing, checking on their progress and things like that.
Well, looking at your participation in the town hall meetings surrounding consolidation, you weren't too afraid to speak your mind.
No.
Or confront the school board. What, personally for you, why is that?
Because I'm not. If I were to be elected to the school board, I wouldn't be a rubber stamp. And I'm not saying that everything they do is a rubber stamp.
Sure.
But if there's 5 school board members and there's 3 that's going to vote this way, it's like automatically, well, if they're going to vote 3, we're just going to go ahead and vote. Yeah. I'm going to question it. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to find out why. I'm going to get the reasonings for it rather than just saying, okay, yeah, I approve of this.
Sure.
So I think from that standpoint, we need to have more questions when something's brought to our attention. Question it, research it, find out what's going on with it, and find out better ways of doing it, even if there's just a tweaking of the way that they're doing something or the way that the administration wants to act.
Okay. And we've talked a lot about economics and finances today, and kind of looking at the bigger picture of Muncie as a city. Do you think there have been, or do you think that the big economic changes that Muncie has experienced made consolidation necessary? And I'll just give you some examples of what I'm thinking here. The factories closing, the declining student population even before consolidation actually happened.
Well, it had a big role in it. It had a huge role. You can't deny that. If you can't afford to operate the school, then you got to do something. You got to save money somewhere. But you can't go in haphazardly and just say, this is the way we're going to do it, rather than doing all your due diligence, as we're doing now with the building feasibility studies and things like that, So if that would have been done to start with, and an outside consultant would have said, hey, look, this is what we have to do, this is what I recommend, and that's a whole different ballgame than someone just, saying, this is what we need to do, we're going to do this.
Okay, due diligence, that's a word I remember Mr. Heller saying quite often in his responses to the town hall meetings. If you wouldn't mind, to you, what does due diligence look like, or what would it have looked like?
What would have looked like was doing the feasibility studies the first time.
Yeah.
Seeing student populations, going back and looking through the populations of your 3rd through 6th grade right now. Or even if you look through 1st through 4th right now, you're looking at 559, 513, 529, and 473. Once again, when those kids get to high school, there's over 2,000 students. And the maximum capacity is 1,906. Where are those kids going to go? Was that looked upon? Was that due diligence? I don't know.
Sure.
2,000 kids going into school that only seats 1,906. Those poor kids that are in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade get to high school, where are they going to go? Are we counting on them leaving our community and losing more students?
And looking at the kids too, do you think the kids' voice, we talked about voices earlier, do you think the kids' voice was heard? I know there were a couple of students that were brave enough to speak up at the town hall meetings, and one of them, if I remember correctly, said that a lot of the parents and adults are standing up and speaking their minds, but nobody's really looking at what the kids have to say. Do you think that's true, or do you think that was true? Did that happen?
I think that as a whole, I don't think a whole lot of the voices were heard. I think were heard, but they weren't really, taken into consideration. And no, I don't think the students really got their fair share of what they needed to say and what they needed to come out with. And a lot of the kids just felt like that it was just going to be a done deal anyway, as most of the parents did. And that the 4 town hall meetings were just basically a smoke and mirror deal, that the mind was already made up. And I believe that was proof when they went to the meeting. There was no real thought process. They wanted to get it over quickly and get the vote over quickly, and that's exactly what had happened. Instead of continuously, meticulously pouring over the numbers. Because if I could sit here and tell you that your 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grades going to be over 2,000 or over 2,000 students in a building that only holds 1,900.
Yeah.
I've not done that much homework. All I've done is pull the statistics of the enrollment. And even back in November, if you looked at 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grades, there were 578, 552, 535, and 507, which is about 2,200 students in the building, 1,900. And that's before we declined. And once we declined, we're still over 2,000 students. So
You said something along the lines of it being a done deal, and if we look back to what some of the people who live on the south side of town had to say during the town hall meetings, it almost came across as they thought it was a done deal in regards to the consolidation happening and Muncie Central being picked as the location for the new high school.
yes.
Combined. Do you think a lot of people had that prediction?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I would say 95% of the people who were going to those meetings knew that it was a done deal.
From both sides of the aisle.
Oh, absolutely. 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 I would say 95% of everybody knew that it was going to be a done deal. They already had said that. There had been several board members in private settings had said, we're going to close Muncie Southside High School. At dinner with people, things like that. So different meetings that were held outside of the school board, that probably was a little inappropriate to say, but individuals had said that they're going to end up having to close Muncie Southside High School.
And if we take that to the next step, kind of, and say that is true, that people did get, some of the school board members did come out and say that Southside was going to be closed. When we take that into consideration against the fact that Mr. Heller stood up at the podium and said that no decision has been made. We don't know what's going to happen. It's all in the works. We're taking what everyone has to say into consideration. Could you then say that the board and Mr. Heller weren't being transparent enough?
Absolutely not. They were not being transparent at all. It's hard to say if Mr. Heller had communication with the board had communication with Heller.
Sure.
To me, there was a lot of miscommunication between the two.
Mm-hmm.
With the studies and things that they needed to do ahead of time. I don't think that there was really talked about as much as it could have been. There was one board member that said, yeah, we need to do a whole lot more homework on this before we just decide to do this.
Yeah.
And she stood for what she thought was right, and she decided that it wasn't right to consolidate at this point in time. Not to say that she didn't think that it needed to happen, but it needed to happen in a different way, to do all the due diligence first, and to get it taken care of the right way, rather than just doing it all in one summer haphazardly.
Sure. And to go back to the kids, because I think that was one thing everybody could agree on,
Mm-hmm.
was that the biggest thing to take into consideration in all of this was the kids and the kids' future.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you might have even partially answered this question earlier, but if you could give advice to children growing up in Muncie today, your own children in general, who are living in this city, going to this school system that is changing, what would that advice be?
Don't be hampered by your surroundings. Don't be hampered by your current state. Think about where you are now and where you want to be,
Mm-hmm.
and strive towards where you want to be rather than where you're at now. And always keep that in mind, and always keep that as a goal of where you want to be rather than where you're stuck at now. Regardless of your situation or regardless of your surroundings, there's always a way to make a better way for yourself.
Okay. And that wraps up all the formal questions that I have for you tonight. But of course, I want to open up the floor to you and let you say anything that you want to on the consolidation issue, add to anything you've already said, or start something new.
Well, just that I think that there's a whole lot of work to be done still. And the consolidation is done, it's over with, but there has a lot of work to be done to reconfigure our entire school system rather than just going on with what we have now. If we're going on with what we have now and go with the status quo, we're going to be in financial despair. Bleeding $3 million a year and losing $2.9 million in revenue from the kids leaving our system, it's going to be tough to overcome. So from my standpoint, we just have to make sure that our community gets involved. The community knows that the school is going to be a great school. Our school system is going to be a great school system, and welcome them back rather than saying, hey, if you think that your kid could get a better education somewhere else, so be it, leave.
Yeah,
And that's the message that they got from the school board. A few of the school board members, I'm not going to say all, but there were a few that said, hey, look, if you get a better education somewhere, go, regardless of the repercussions. And I wouldn't want any one of our kids to leave our school system simply because I feel like that we have a lot to offer and we don't want them to leave the community. They're still living in this community, driving 20 minutes to school.
Yeah.
What does that do in the wintertime when the conditions get bad?
Yeah.
It's not very safe for our children.
Why do you think it is that some board members took that approach?
Because they heard the threats. Because they heard that, hey, kids are going to leave in droves. Kids are going to be going.
Yeah.
They didn't want to believe that. And they were just, you know what, if you're going to go, you're going to go. I don't know if they didn't think that there were people that have the means to have their kids go to other community schools. I couldn't tell you. But I knew that there was going to be people leaving. How many? 450. We looked at it when Anderson Community Schools combined, and we saw how many people left then.
Yeah.
And we were no different. When they consolidated Anderson, a ton of kids left. And we knew that was going to happen here. We didn't have as many that left as Anderson did, but 450 is God's plenty in my mind.
Sure. And then this is a personal question for you going off of that.
Yes.
But what made you stay? What made you keep your?
Because I've told my kids that when things get tough, you don't run away. Community schools, Muncie Community Schools have been our home for years.
Mm-hmm.
When the tough gets going, you don't run from home, you run to home. And you continue to build on what you have. You don't face adversity if you just run from something when it happens.
Sure.
If you're part of something that happens and you can make it great, such as the band winning the state championship. That started off the school year great. And that's the one thing that my son is a part of the band, and he was a drum major. And that's what I told him. I put the pressure on him the first of the year. I said, look, they've already decided to consolidate schools. You guys are marching together as Central and Southside is one. It'll be the Muncie Central Band. You guys are marching together. And the amount of emphasis you put on winning right now needs to be there. You need to go out and win the state. I'm going to put the pressure on you because I think you need to have the pressure.
Yeah.
And they performed well. They did exactly what they needed to do to start this consolidation off right. And that's the message that I wanted to send to every one of our parents, children in this community, is that you still have to work hard to achieve the things you have to achieve.
Yeah.
And simply by leaving the community, taking your kids to another school because you feel like the competition level is not going to be as intense, doesn't do anything to better your children.
So would you say that we're already starting to form, or the kids are already starting to form in the consolidated school, a new sense of identity together? Is that already happening?
To an extent. Meaning that the identity of the Muncie Central Bearcats will never be changed. I know a lot of parents and a lot of students and a lot of people wanted an entire new identity.
Yeah, I
Which,
remember that, yeah.
To me, financially, if that was feasible, I would be all for it, which they did have a $325,000 grant from the Ball Foundation, which possibly could have made that feasible. But on the other hand of that, you see half this community kids, their identity taken from them. What good does it do to take the other part? What good does it do to take the rich tradition, the Muncie Central Bearcats, from the kids who are already there too? And now you've got 1,600 kids who've lost their identity rather than just half of them. I still feel like that would be unfair and unjust to the children that are already there living that culture. I will say that the children who are there have welcomed the Muncie Southside kids with open arms. And it's been a really good consolidation. The kids are doing fine. The kids will continue to do fine as long as the parents can continue to be an active part of that process.
All right, well, if you don't have anything to add after that.
That's pretty much it.
Okay, well, thank you, Dave. Thanks for taking the time to sit down and talk with us.
I appreciate it. All right.